Would your teen rather text than talk? Do you know what to do if your child is being bullied? What if your child is the bully? And how does this play out online? In this episode of IQ Smart Parent, we'll talk about what to think about when we like, follow, and share our online selves. Hi, I'm Angela Sansamero. Tonight on IQ Smart Parent, we'll be talking about online identities and social media. Did you know that there are currently over 200 social networking sites? And over 5 million kids under the age of 13 are on Facebook illegally. Over the past decade or so, our culture has seen a dramatic shift in how we use technology to connect with each other and express ourselves by emailing and texting and instant messaging, posting and tweeting. And it's no surprise that teens and tweens are among the heaviest users of social media. A recent study by Common Sense Media found that 75% of 13 to 17-year-olds have a profile on social networking sites, and 68% of them text every day. Let's take a look.
It's easier to experiment online because then you're open to more options. It kind of is like a new person because you're not really talking like you really would talk. You know, it's fun, and also it can be dangerous to experiment.
I really don't want people to know who I am or stuff like that and what I like, and yeah, I don't want people finding out about me.
It's so much easier to talk to people on Facebook. I mean, you don't have to see them face to face.
Who knows who they are? You don't know their appearance. You don't know anything about them but what they've told you. They could be lying. And there's no way to actually trust them.
You have the guts to do stuff on the computer that you don't have the guts to do in person sometimes.
We call it digital life, but to them, it's just life. Our kids live in a 24/7 connected culture. We used to sit at home and look at 3 different devices. Now it's one device and it's on the move. The way we used to consume information was we just took it in. They create it as much as they consume it. The genie's out of the bottle, parents. Don't even think of getting a stopper.
With me now is Caroline Knorr, parenting editor for Common Sense Media, who can tell us more about her research and what these findings mean. So Caroline, so happy you're here.
Thank you.
The genie is out of the bottle. What does that mean?
Well, at Common Sense Media, we believe that the media that kids create and consume has a profound effect on their social, emotional, cognitive, and physical development. I mean, kids are spending more than 7.5 hours a day interacting with media. That's more time spent, at school, than at school or with their parents. So that's pretty influential in their lives.
So you're saying it defines them a little bit in terms of what shows that they're watching and then who they're talking with online.
Yes.
So from a child development perspective, and I have to say, I'm that mom, I have to gush for a second, I'm that mom who tells all the other moms about Common Sense Media before we go see a movie, before we watch anything, we need to check it out. So what can you say about teens when you do your research? Are you finding that they're feeling better about themselves through social media or worse about themselves?
Yeah, well, we conducted a study last year about teen media use in America. It was a very large study, and it did show that teens are feeling mostly positive about their online experiences in social media, but they do understand a lot of the consequences. Like, for example, they feel frustrated that a lot of their friends are on their devices and won't get off. They may feel distracted by technology when there's other important things that they need to do. And they
feel like they have to be on it?
That's the third thing I was going to say, is they actually feel like they're addicted to their technology.
So if we think that it's life, right? It's not digital life, it's just their life. So if we look at it from a child development perspective, help me break it down. So it's the sense of when our preschoolers are little, right? They're trying on different identities, they're being princesses and pirates. So when this translates online when you're a little bit older, they're still doing this, is that right?
Right. So, I mean, kids are, we actually just did a study where we measured kids' media use for kids 0 to 8 years old, and we found a 4-fold increase in the amount of time that kids 0 to 8 are spending with digital media. We also, since 2011, and we also found that 38% of kids under 2 are interacting with digital media on a daily basis. So that's a lot.
So they've never been without it. This is a generation of kids that won't remember not having it.
That's right. And so it's really imperative that parents really understand that it's crucial to develop time limits that make sense for your family, and to also really choose good media. I mean, there are TV shows and apps and sites designed for kids under 2 years old. And there's a lot of really great stuff out there that can really benefit childhood development. Games and apps that can really help kids understand emotions. So as they're growing up in this world with digital media, they can actually use digital media to become more sophisticated about real social interaction.
So that empathy is what you're
absolutely, yes,
that you're talking about, right? We want them to develop that empathy that might help them when they're dealing with their peers.
Especially as they're growing up and talking to people, chatting with other people online, sharing photos, creating content. It's absolutely essential, especially for the working world that they're going to be inheriting. You know, 21st century working world is they're going to be interacting with people all over the world. So establishing these good, responsible, respectful online communication where you really understand that there's a person on the other end of that text is imperative.
So as a mom, what kind of rules did you put in place for your own teenager?
That's a great question. So I have the kind of teen who always forgets to charge his cell phone or bring his cell phone everywhere. So I have to remind him to bring his cell phone. But one of the difficulties that we ran into is that I have a almost 15-year-old. He password protects his iPhone. And so that means that my husband and I don't have access to anything that's on that phone. And he feels very territorial and possessive of that phone. It's an extension of him. It's like as personal as a diary.
And that's okay with you?
Well, I actually don't think in my situation that it really works to say, oh, I have to have your password, because I also tell him never to share his password with anyone. And I do feel that he's responsible. So every so often we have a little check-in where he opens it up, and I'm sure he changes the password 5 minutes later. But that's just my particular issue.
So also from your research, what sites are teens on now? I heard that they're not as much on Facebook anymore.
Facebook is a site, obviously, that's had, it was sort of like, the progenitor of all of this social media. And I think that teens now feel that it's important to be on Facebook as almost a directory. So, they can be able to contact anyone they need to. But it's not the site where they're really finding that they want to share, or that enables them to share more casual moments. And that's what teens really love to do. They love to take a picture and be able to send it to their friends.
Instagram.
Yes.
What else?
So Instagram is a downloadable app that allows you to take a picture and put cool effects on that picture and send it to a lot of friends. Snapchat is another picture app that kids really like, because it allows you to send a picture that supposedly self-destructs after it's viewed by the receiver. But of course, as we always say, nothing actually really disappears online in the digital world. So Snapchat, Instagram, those are popular ones. Ask FM is another really popular site. These question sites tend to come up a lot, where FormSpring was another one where you can ask a question anonymously, and unfortunately they tend to bring out some negative and cruel behavior in kids who ask negative questions.
Yes. So we actually have some experts in the audience as well. In the work that I do, the only way we know if episodes are working when we create new shows is to ask kids, because they're the experts. And so we have our teens here. We have Michael and Grace and Andrew. So is this true? Is this where you are? Now that will you tell us? Are you on Facebook, Michael? Are you on Instagram?
I would have to say there are probably four main, there are also others, but four main social media websites or apps that are used, and they are probably Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter. Ask FM is also common. Instagram, I don't know if I said that already, but Facebook is, as you said, dying down for people our age, and it is only a matter of time until a new app or a social media vehicle is released.
What are some that we don't know about? You were getting to those?
Well,
lesser known?
there are not any that are that maybe we don't know about, but some that are maybe in the design process that will be released shortly that may spark the attention of people our age.
So do you, do your parents have your password?
My parents do not have my password to any of my devices, no.
Why is that?
I mean, I feel, and I believe they feel as well, that since they're going to trust me with such devices, it is my responsibility to carry myself in an appropriate way, and that I should be responsible for the things in which I choose to text, tweet, or share with other people.
Thank you. Grace, what do you think about Twitter? What's going on? Why are teens going there more?
The reason why teens are going more there is because it's almost like Facebook in a way, where it's almost having like a constant status update. And so they almost use it as like a venting source. They can vent about other students, teachers, parents, and it's a very easy source to bully somebody with.
Really?
Yes.
So tell us more. Tell us a little bit about that bullying or cyberbullying or cyber harassment.
There's something called subtweeting, and subtweeting is when you mention somebody without saying their name, something about them, something very hurtful. And unfortunately, the thing is with subtweeting is people sometimes forget that there's somebody on the other side, there's feelings involved, and people think it's funny, so they'll retweet it or favorite it, but somebody is getting hurt, unfortunately, and they don't consider that.
So subtweeting, that's something I've never heard about before. Have you heard this before? What else don't we know? Is there anything else?
I mean, subtweeting is probably one of the main things because, like I said, they can hide behind the screen and they feel like, oh, I'm not saying their specific name, so it's fine. But they all know who it's about. The person is still getting hurt.
Right.
It's the exact same thing.
Thank you. So Andrew, you are class president, I hear.
Yeah.
And have you ever thought about posting or tweeting or saying something that actually might come back to haunt you if you become the president?
Well, that's something that my parents instilled in me at a very young age. My dad's a neuropsychologist, and he's out on the internet already, so I already knew about posting. If I posted something, it's going to come back and get me. Because in all reality, posting something now mean about someone isn't the same as hurting someone at the playground. That thing that you post is going to get out a lot quicker, and it's come back and get you really fast. So if you're in high power, or even if you're not, you're somebody, just be smart about what you post. And that's something not very well taught with our age, because some parents and some people of high power aren't well educated on the internet in a way, because people are so used to the typical bullying, which is like on the playground. This is a whole new era, which as we go more and more, the bullying is going to die down, I feel, because people will get more educated, and there's going to be programs like this, which I think will end up paying off in the long run.
That's so great. So it's so inspiring. I mean, I think it's true about the education. Is that exactly what you're trying to do at Common Sense Media, is to get everybody on board?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we have a curriculum designed for kindergarten through second grade, and then on through elementary school and middle school. And we really just try and focus on helping kids develop empathy, understand that there are feelings on the other end of that. And then I think they talked a little bit about the anonymity issue. And that's another thing that parents should talk to their kids about, teachers should talk to students about, that we wouldn't want kids to hide behind that cloak of anonymity and take responsibility for their behavior.
And Andrew, do you think that's why it hurts more when you talked about that with cyberbullying, when you put something out there and then it continues to stay out there? Is that why do you think it's even harder than it was back in my day when it was bullying to your face?
Well, here's an example. Let's say you're with somebody on the playground and you punch them in the face and everyone around starts ganging up on you. That's just the kids in that recess in that school. When you put something out on Twitter, you got kids from other high schools ganging up on you. And there's more and more kids, and it just gets out of hand a lot quicker, like you said, on the internet, which makes it a lot more frightening and it's definitely a lot more powerful for the person getting bullied. It does not feel, probably feels 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Yep.
Grace, what would you say to other kids your age to stop this? To just, it's so prevalent and it's so hurtful.
I think it's definitely about education, and so educating students in elementary school about how bullying, it starts in middle school. They have to understand that there is somebody on the other side. You are hurting somebody's feelings. And the problem is, like Andrew said with Twitter, when you retweet something, it'll come up on everybody's news feed, even if you don't follow that specific person. So it's getting out so quick. The faster people understand how dangerous this can be, which goes back to the thing with education and starting early, for sure.
And Michael, do you think that there's anything that kids can do? Can they block those tweets? Can they, I'm going to start sounding like I don't know what I'm talking about. Can they block the tweets? Can you ignore people? What can you do personally, let's say, if someone's being bullied?
Do you mean the bullier or the one being bullied?
No, the one who potentially is getting the bullying.
I mean, it would be very healthy to block that person, report them to the interface manager, be it Twitter or Instagram. There are some cyber organizations in which you can lodge complaints against. I also suggest if you have mutual friends that are close to you, that they also unfollow and get this germ, in a sense, of a person away from them in order to promote positive feedback, positive atmosphere for social media.
Because we need to see consequences, right, to those actions, which is something that they're thinking they're avoiding by doing it online.
You know, it's very common, as we see in the news, that anything that is standoffish online could very quickly become standoffish physically in person or something related to that.
That's so great. That is so great.
I love what he said about getting other kids involved to help the victim or the target of the bullying, because studies show that when peers stand up for other peers, that's way more effective. Of course, we should all get involved as adults as appropriate, but it's more effective against the bully who's trying to isolate their victim when peers stand up for other peers.
That's great. Thank you guys so much. We also have lots of parents and grandparents with us tonight, including several moms who met with Dr. G recently to discuss their experiences with their children and social media. Let's watch.
I mean, I think you'd agree that most of our kids will have jobs where they need technology. They need those skills. They have to be able to use social media. I don't think I know anybody, you know, I'm a doctor and we use technology all the time, and we're encouraged, you know, are you tweeting for your hospital system, and are you, you know, engaging, and how do you protect patients' privacy issues on Facebook? But it's assumed that we will be involved in technology.
I have 4 girls, and they range from 4th grade to 12th grade, and we've just sort of run the gamut of experiences, and part of it is the privilege and responsibility of being online, and you know, that's a life skill that cuts across. And so, you know, one child might use social media appropriately and find a passion and explore that, and that's positive, and then another child is realizing, here's the responsibility piece. You know, I have to be accountable for the things that I put out there. And I think it changes as they get older. It depends on the child, and just sort of meeting them where they are with limits and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's become very much a part of parenting.
So how old is your son?
He's 14.
And how do you figure out what he's watching? How do you keep an eye on it?
Well, I hope that I have instilled enough in him that he's mindful. And he's proven that to me, but at one point, and I do have to say this, we got him the almighty iPhone. Mm-hmm. And and I told him, I said, there's a condition to this, as there's a condition to what you can eat, and when you go to bed, and what you can watch. No secret passwords. I have to have access to that.
My son is 17, and he uses all forms of media.
Okay.
And the way I parent my children is that I don't have cable. I refuse to have cable. It's junk. So we have just medium standard TV. So
which I think is changing too, right?
Right.
The tone feels a lot more like cable. There
Right.
isn't such a clear definition.
But they grew up not knowing cable, and you know, not until they went to school, and then they said, why don't we have cable? When they started asking us, why don't we have cable?
Mom, guess what? There's this great thing.
Right. So as a parent, when they were young, I limited their choices without them realizing it. So as they grew up, they weren't familiar with all this stuff. When parents bring all this stuff to them when they're very young, then it almost becomes expected that as they grow up, they expect more and more and more.
I mean, I have policies for my kids, but I also have policies for other people's children on social media.
In
that I won't follow them or allow them to follow me or friend me if their parents aren't always also following them, because I don't want to necessarily parent someone else's child online. So if you're under 21, I don't want you to follow me unless your parents are also following you, because I don't want to be the one adult that sees what you're doing, and then that puts me in a position, I mean, I'll do it, but I'd rather not.
Yeah.
You know, I'm busy parenting my own kids online. So.
Very much.
Are you aware that children are very smart today than they were in our age? Yeah. So they will have one Facebook account for you and me and dad and uncle and aunties, but they'll have another Facebook account which you are not even aware of. And those Facebook accounts, and they also separate their friends. So if
These
they
are the
have
good friends, these are the people I really like.
if they have friends whose mothers you are in friends with, they'll put those friends with the Facebook that you are and your mother's on. Then there is another Facebook where you don't know those kids at all. So you've not remembered. So they'll have two sets of Facebook, or they'll have two sets of any type of social media.
So I feel like our kids' circles have widened, which is good for them in some ways, but I feel like it's also made it a little harder for us to know where they are.
But I think you do have to keep checks and balances, you know, like you said, with communication, honest, open, frequent communication.
And trust.
And monitor that. I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old. 16-year-old is a boy, 13-year-old is a girl. My daughter feels that she should have the same opportunities.
So developmentally, they feel exactly the same, right?
Well, she does, but I don't.
Right. Exactly.
I think that that's earned, and I think there's a maturation process involved. Like you say, we're using all this technology in the schools now. So we need this technology, but it has to have limits. And I have set limits with both of my children, more so with my daughter because she's younger, and I don't know that she understands fully or as well the consequences of putting information out there.
I have the gamut of kids in my house. I have grandchildren, I do foster care, I've adopted a child. So the adopted child, she tries to push the limits. Like I found on her iPod, she put a password. No, we don't do passwords. You're too young for passwords. And it's, well, when can I get on Facebook? She wants to do FaceTime on my iPhone.
I need my device.
Yeah. Can we do Kick? I was like, Kick? What is that? So, you know, they're constantly bombarding me with new technology, and I work in an IT department. So,
But they do force us to be early adopters.
Yes.
We don't have any set learning time. We're constantly reminding him over and over again because he is 14 years old. And sometimes my husband and myself have to remind ourselves, you know, that he's 14.
Right.
He's not 21. He's 14. No, he can't make that decision for himself. No.
And it feels weightier. I know at the medical schools where I've taught and have connections is that in their admissions department, they have someone whose job it is to monitor the social media of the applicants. That's all they do. They add notes to each person's file about their social media, you know, what they posted on Facebook, if they've done anything that looks, you know, like Girls Gone Wild or something totally inappropriate, and it really matters. But convincing a 14-year-old that they will ever even be 30, let alone be applying to a graduate school program and care, right, because that's ancient. They'll probably just, you know, that's somebody else entirely.
Children need to understand that life from start to finish is all about choices.
Yes, it is.
And make good ones. You are going to make mistakes. We've all made mistakes. But you have to make good choices. And if that means you don't socialize with people that you know are not making the same kind of good choices, so be it. Remove yourself from that situation. I know that sometimes that's not an easy choice, but it's the right choice.
Oh my God, 2 Facebook pages. I had no idea. Learning a lot today. We've talked before about how important it is to have a balanced media diet, and very recently the American Academy of Pediatrics actually made a similar recommendation. They want doctors to ask 2 media-related questions and to provide age-appropriate counseling around media at every well child visit. Dr. Debbie Gilboa, a family physician, is here with us tonight. Dr. G, what do you think about this recommendation? Are you hearing this from your patients?
I'm hearing about it from my academies, and what I find is that parents are thrilled. Whenever I bring up media in the room, there is this parental sigh of relief. Somebody else is going to talk about this. Maybe I'll learn something. Maybe my child will actually listen in this situation. There is a lot to be said about introducing this into the conversation in the doctor's office because it legitimizes it as a genuine health concern. We've been hearing tonight from Angela and Caroline so far, and I know we'll hear from our experts later in the show, that this matters for children's and teens' health. It is something that parents wonder about all the time. And one of the women in the video that we just watched mentioned that she feels bombarded by new technology and she's in IT. And so I want to ask some of the parents who are here tonight, how do you keep up? Do you keep up? Is it realistic to have any idea what our kids are doing online? I'm going to pick on somebody. I'm going to pick on you. Come on, I am. Come on up.
Okay.
Stand right here for me. Yeah.
Hi there. Actually, I have my 14-year-old twins here with me tonight, and they'll probably be very embarrassed when I say they do not have cell phones. They do have iPods that they text their friends through.
So they're not totally in the dark ages.
No. I'm the one that's in the dark ages. And when you said about how do we keep up with things, I'm constantly going to them, asking them how to use the computer. Not totally how to use a computer, but you know
how to
what I
solve
mean.
every
Yes.
problem that happens.
But I know they're texting their friends through their iPods. One of the twins has no password. I read it at any given time. The other one has a password, and I'm not able to. My question is, where do you draw the line on I trust them fully, but at some point I definitely want to check just to make sure there's nothing coming up that I should be aware of?
You know, and that's an excellent question. The truth is that we've heard tonight this idea that a child might not need us to know what the password are. One of our teen guests said that no, he's got his passwords for himself because he knows that what he posts he's responsible for, and that the flip side of that is his parents trusting him to hold on to his passwords and genuinely keep it private and respectful. I really like the point that one of the guests in the video made, which is that trust is earned. When a 12-year-old says, "Don't you trust me?" part of the answer is, I do. I trust you to be 12, which means sometimes you're trustworthy and sometimes you're not. But I trust that I am not psychic to know when that time is. So I am going to need to spot check. And the more often and the longer I spot check and find that everything is above board, that you're representing yourself and our family the way I want you to, the less often I'm going to feel the need to check. That kids earn privileges. Here's a question we got from Facebook. I saw that my child is getting text messages at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. How can I talk to my kids about their behavior online without making them angry or defensive? Conflict is bred most often by unclear expectations. When we don't know what the consequences might be and we think that we might get away with something and we don't, that can lead to a lot of feeling angry and defensive. Parents can, especially with devices that are used to communicate with other people, which is now pretty much every device, including some televisions, say, hey, we're going to have what we used to call in the medical field cell phone hygiene, but is now really just device hygiene. Because the problem isn't the device, it's how you use it. In our house, our eldest son has a cell phone, and it's not his. He rents it from his dad and I. We signed a contract with Verizon. He signs a contract with us about his behavior. At his age, part of that behavior is charging his cell phone on the charger in our bedroom, starting a half an hour before bedtime until he picks it up in the morning. If anybody texts him in the middle of the night, I answer. So, you know, that stops really quickly, actually. I find that I just have to do that once and we never hear from them again. So I want to ask the parents who are here tonight, is there anything good about social media and teens? Is it all bad news? Is this just a terrible, terrible thing that's come into our kids' lives? Or does it benefit them in some way? Nobody has any ideas? Okay, then I'm going to go to the experts. Come on up here and talk to me for a second, would you? I get the sense from what you said earlier that you think there are some good things about social media and technology.
Absolutely. Okay, here's an example at our high school. Just recently, a kid was diagnosed with cancer, and we decided to throw a faculty basketball game for him. And you'd think it's just a couple, like 100 kids maybe in the stands would come out and support him. It turned out that there was over probably 1,500, 1,600 people there. And you wonder, how does that happen? That happened because of social media. With Twitter and things of that nature, we were able to drive the support for him, and it ended up being an event that brought everyone together and ultimately stops the subtweeting and all that stuff. And for that night, our high school was united, and probably for the rest of the school year and years to come, we're going to be united for that night because it was such a special night for everybody, and these guys can talk about that too.
You know, and that's really the opposite of cyberbullying.
Right.
That is cyber empowering. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So I just want to ask one more question of the parents who are here. How do we, if it's not enough to say to our kids, hey, you know, when you're 30, you're going to be applying to graduate school and you're going to need to not have these things in your history, what does speak to kids? How do we get their attention and have that conversation in a way that's meaningful? Yes, come on up. Here, come this way for me.
I think one great way is to Google your child or have them Google themselves or Bing or whatever search engine so they can actually see the results of what they're putting out there.
And so if I have my child Google themselves, they're going to see what other people see when they look for them.
Yes, even pictures and video and text too.
And then you don't have to lecture at all because the evidence is there on the screen.
Correct.
Thank you. What parents need to know is that when we have the opportunity to talk to our kids, that's when we're going to make an impression. But we have to make an impression in a way that speaks to our children and doesn't just sound like a lecture. Parents understandably have a lot of concerns about their children's safety and privacy while online. When we come back, Angela will introduce us to two experts in the field of cyber security.
Want to find out more about IQ Smart Parent? Visit our website at wqed.org/smartparent. There you'll find information about each episode, including topics and guests, links to the latest research on kids and media, and other great resources like books, videos, and articles on IQ Smart Parent topics. It's also your place to connect with our online community. Look for WQED EDU on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and Pinterest for IQ Smart Parent updates and much more. For more than 50 years, WQED has helped spark your child's curiosity and love of learning with trusted resources in literacy, math and science, and social well-being. Now, we're excited to launch a new institute for parents that will empower them with knowledge and resources to raise their 21st century children with confidence. Join our IQ Smart Parent community. Sign up at wqed.org/smartparent.
Keeping our kids safe online is a real issue. With me now are Kelly Kochamba with the FBI and Rick Wallace, a cybersecurity expert who trains many federal and state law enforcement officials. Welcome.
Thank you.
So Rick, I want to start with you.
Okay.
I know that you are an expert on security and you have 5 teens in your house.
I do.
Do you agree with this idea of not snooping on them?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, me too. See, I knew we would get along.
Yeah, no. Everything that they do, I'm watching.
Yeah. And even so, for your own kids, and you again are out there for all of us and looking at everything. But even for your own kids, are you hyper vigilant on them, or?
You know, just based on some of the things that I've seen, how easy it is to be exploited online, how how easy it is for a child to share a small piece of information, and it can snowball into an extremely serious and physical confrontation. You know, of course, I'm very, very cautious of what my children are sharing and what information is out there, not only about them, but as well as our entire family.
And for us too, right? As adults, we kind of need to know how this really is the Wild West and how people can really even get to us.
It's so easy. I mean, you know, all it takes is I'll give you an example. There's an individual out in the, you bring up the West, out on the West Coast, that communication started with a picture with a simple text on it that expressed an interest that this individual had. That text and that image went to, a cell phone conversation, to a text message, to an email account, to this individual talking to her in the middle of the night, explaining to her how to take a screen out of her bedroom window and sneak off with this person, you know, in the middle of the night, and you know, extremely horrible things happen.
So this is like the boiling frog idea, right? Like if you put a frog in a pot of boiling water, they'll jump out.
It's basically like we would call grooming. It's where you would start, you know, speaking to, or you know, open the door of communication, and this person thinks you're your friend, although you've never met that person, and it'll just continue on until, you know, ultimately, you know, the bad person does what he does.
And how old was that child?
He was 12.
12. Mm-hmm. Kelly, you've heard some of these stories as well.
That's what we typically see in our Violent Crimes Against Children squad. Usually the grooming process begins with an open forum, such as you know, a social networking site, a gaming device, or any kind of an application that allows open communication in the virtual world.
So like a chat room.
Right, a chat room or anything similar. And new things come out all the time, which is something that we have to keep up with and be vigilant about. Different ways that these different open forums that come out, if not weekly, more often globally. Your child has the potential to communicate with anyone across the globe. It's not just regional anymore. So usually that they form an open line of communication and with a child or a teen, and then we'll see them grooming them, and after time they'll start more of a private communication over you know, email, private texting, phone calls, even mail, which is something that we tell parents, one of the warning signs that we tell them to look out for if your child is receiving phone calls or receiving gifts in the mail or letters in the mail or communicating with people that you don't know online, something is wrong. So.
Caroline, have you've...
Yeah, I think we've heard over and over and over again tonight that, you know, parents don't know what kids are using, and they're always going to be 1 or 2 or 3 steps ahead of us, you know. I think that what it really comes down to is what, as so many people have said, is staying involved in your kids' media life and starting from a young age to help them learn responsible, respectful online behavior, and know that there's always going to be something new. And it's not the technology that makes kids bad, it's kids who are maybe in crisis or who knows what's going on will use the tools at their disposal to act out. Whether it be curiosity or whether it be just wanting to fit in with something, yeah, or anything like that. Those are the vulnerabilities that parents should look out for.
And Rick, can you tell us how vulnerable we really are? I think you did some snooping on some people in the audience. And
I did. I received a list. I believe there were 63 members or audience members on that list. And I can tell you, you know, there are several people's tax returns. There's quite a few of your kids' homework that's out there floating around on peer-to-peer networks. You know, just, and if I could, I mean, how many of you download music online? I mean, quite a few of you. Just a show of hands. You know, while you're downloading, and whether it be, you know, any site other than right now the only real safe site is iTunes that is certifiably safe. When you're jumping on these peer-to-peer networks, you're opening up your computers. You're sharing with the bad guys ways in that allow you to basically, you know, take all of the information off of your parents' home computer, and you know, the bad guys are using that. They're searching for soccer roster. They're searching for, you know, vacation pictures. They're searching for, you know, 1040. And what they're doing once they pull all that down, then they can socially target you. They can go to your Facebook account and say, you know, hey, I am your father's friend from, you know, World War II, you know, whatever. Yeah, I guess World War II might be a little old, but anyway.
Your grandfather.
Right.
So it's not really stranger danger, right? Because they're trying to get in
it's
in
not,
some
because
way.
people are always going to be trying to get into your computer. They're always going to be.
And it's not that hard, even though you're an
It's not
expert in
difficult
this.
at
It's not
all.
like you have
I mean,
20 people working in the
I
audience.
can tell you that there are 4 families here that took a vacation to North Carolina this last year, and you know, I'd be happy to share those pictures with you. I mean, it's insane the amount of information that's out there.
And it's public.
And it's public. So
yeah, it's all public domain.
So what do we do? Is it a password issue, or do we need a better password?
It's a sharing too much information issue.
Sharing too much information.
Passwords are, like we spoke about, passwords are meant to be broken. If you don't need a password, why do you put a password on there? Well, it's almost like if you put a lock on a gate, somebody's going to get in. It's only a matter of time. So what do you have inside that fence that people want to get to? You keep your photographs private, you keep your information private.
And the photographs can tell you where you are, right? Is there a location device issue with the?
You can tell the latitude and longitude. There are, especially if you have the geolocation turned on, like on an iPhone or an Android. If you snap a picture, for example, there was a recent case that I worked on where an individual was in a bathroom and took a picture of herself, and the GPS location device was turned on, and everybody knew, not only in her school, but everybody knew on the peer-to-peer world where that kid lived, because they could go to Google and look up the latitude and longitude. And I'm sure the kids know this, the parents don't.
I mean, even posting something on Craigslist, right? I have such and such bicycle to sell, and then all of a sudden you're basically telling somebody where you live.
Right. Exactly.
Just even through the photo.
Right.
Right. That is so scary to me.
Now there are some websites that take the metadata out of images, but for the most part, it's all there.
And we have to turn something off, right, on our iPhone.
Yes, you turn on like geolocating or your latitude and longitude. Yeah.
I'd love to turn our discussion now to cyberbullying or cyber harassment, as we'll talk about. And Common Sense Media actually has really great resources on this topic. So let's just take a look at one of your videos.
Texting, sharing photos, instant messaging. This is how so many of today's kids socialize. But they can also use these digital tools to threaten, gang up on, and cyberbully other kids. What you may not realize about cyberbullying is that it's not always just one bully and one victim. Often, many other kids are present too. Some stand by silently, some join in, and some may even stand up for the bully. Experts say that kids standing up for other kids is one of the single most powerful ways to stop cyberbullying.
Kelly, this is so serious. Can you talk a little bit more about the work that you're doing around this?
Yes, we have the FBI has 56 field offices, and then we also have legal attachés across the world. So, as I said before, cybercrime and global virtual world is not as localized as the government is or as regulations are. So what we do is we share information with these violent crimes against children task forces. We have made arrests of individuals coming into the area based on information that was shared to us from other violent crimes against children task forces worldwide. And then we also, if we see something that's not right, if we see information that needs to be shared with the other task forces, that's something that we definitely do on a daily basis.
And when does it get to you? So for instance, if you start to see as a mom something's going on with your child and you want to report it to the school, sometimes it seems that they don't do something right away. It needs to kind of go over time. So when does it get to you?
Well, parents need to first research their school policy. Also, I always tell parents to research any other portals that their child might have access to, whether it's in the school or at the local library, or any time that they have access to certain devices in the virtual world outside of their homes and their smartphones or their smart devices. Anytime, I always tell, there's different state and local and federal laws. So I always tell parents any kind of threat of violence or any kind of threat at all to contact law enforcement and or the school. Anytime that they see an image that is shared that's not necessarily a nice image or something that could be exploited, contact the school and possibly contact state, local, or federal law enforcement as well. But they need to be proactive about it.
Great. That's great. So, I think we have a mom in the audience who has a question.
Hi,
I do. I have a comment and maybe a question. So my daughter is 16. She is in high school, and she called me. I was out of the house one day, and she was on Twitter, and that's when I learned about subtweeting. Some of her peers had tweeted, I guess, something about her. She was cyberbullied, and she was devastated. I mean, I left what I was doing, went home to pick up my 15-year-old off the floor because of the things that were written. I screenshotted it. And not only was it tweeted by another individual, it was subtweeted or retweeted or liked, so it just spread like wildfire throughout the community, throughout her group, her school. So I screenshotted the paper. I printed it out. I took it to school. I met with the principal. I also showed other parents so that they knew the level of what was happening, because at times parents don't believe that this is what's going on, or they think that this is the way kids are supposed to be at this age and it's acceptable. The particular parent in this situation didn't feel that this was something that was unacceptable, so there were no repercussions at home. So what I did was I took my physical evidence and I took it to the school, and I also showed her group of friends and their parents, and I said, this is what's going on and this is what's happening. And when I did that, I did say to her friends, either you stand with her as your friend or you don't, because this isn't acceptable. You have to shut it down.
So were there consequences for that girl?
There were consequences through the school, but they were not at liberty to tell me what the consequences or the disciplinary actions were.
And did she lose friends, or did people still stand by her?
My daughter's friends did rally around her, and they did shut it down.
That's great.
So, and I was proud of them for that.
That's great.
One thing that we see constantly is you have a personality when you're a person at school, these kids do. When they come home and they jump on a computer, they're completely somebody else. When that bus rolls in and they can, get home and get on Wi-Fi, it's so much easier to bully someone when you're behind a keyboard than it is to stand up in person. And it sounds to me like that's something probably that happened.
Right, and there is it can be an anonymous, well, it wasn't about you, but when everyone else is aware. So yeah, it's definitely, what do you do, and what do you do when the parent is not proactive and thinking that their child has done this and there's no repercussions. That child is allowed to still utilize the same social media, and here I'm going to shut down my kid and all her social media because of something someone else did to her.
And did your daughter want you to go to the school, or was she worried that it was going to make things worse for her?
She wanted to ignore it.
Yeah.
But I would not allow it.
That's great. Would you have any advice for that if it doesn't seem there's consequences?
I absolutely would not ignore it. I absolutely 100% would not ignore it. We can look in the news in the last month. We can see a specific case in Florida. When you start ignoring cyberbullying and things that are happening on, whether it be cases like or sites like Ask FM or Twitter, or it doesn't matter where it is in the cyber world, it's going to come to a point where an action is going to be taken, and you will regret it if you don't stand up and stop it.
There's a certain teenage girl that recently ended her life because she had to change schools 3 times. We work with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and she had to change schools 3 times, but the people followed her online. Just changing schools isn't enough anymore. And I can't recall her name at the moment, but it'll come back to me. But the story went viral on YouTube, and now we use that girl's story to advocate against this type of bullying. And while I'm on that topic,
Well, because she couldn't avoid it, is what you're saying. So she changed the schools 3 times.
3 times.
But still could not. You can't get away.
That same group followed her virtually. So unfortunately, it's a tough thing to get away from online. Everything online is permanent. Well, unfortunately, that is too.
And to that mom's point, right, the only thing to do would be for you to leave online.
We don't recommend
right? We
inaction.
Can't stop. Yeah.
Definitely not.
So listen to some of these statistics. 90% of teens who have seen bullying have ignored it. And girls are about twice as likely as boys to be victims and perpetrators. And 81% of teens think bullying online is easier to get away with. So what do we do? What do we do as parents? I mean, for me, it's about mothers against drunk driving. Like, what can we do as mothers to get together so that there are consequences for the actions for kids like this? Because this is devastating.
I loved what this mom said, and it sounds like such a horrible thing that you had to go through, but she did all the right things. She saved the evidence, and she did bring it to the school, and she also confronted the other parents, and I think that must have been really, really tough to do. And everything is sort of up for interpretation. I think what's really, really hard is that one kid could say, oh, I was joking, or was it really about them? And you know that it really was. So it's important, I think, sometimes to even maybe engage a neutral, and when things go that wrong, we might want to engage a neutral party to mediate the situation. And I think that this mother really displayed good role modeling. We need to role model good digital citizenship for our kids and say, I'm not going to put up with it, and this is really happening. It's not fake, and so I'm going to deal with it.
Kelly, do you have any other thoughts in terms of how we can help?
We always tell parents to educate, spend time with their children. I know we live in a global world that's polarizing us from personal interaction with each other. We're all online. Everyone is, and that personalization is lost sometimes. Between families. And so we have a Take 25 program that we do with the National Center every May. Take 25 minutes to talk to your kids about certain points, educate them, spend time with them online. Also tell them to never put anything online that they don't want to see on a billboard at the end of the road. And
spending time with them online reminds me of it's as important as going to their basketball game or going to see a drama recital, because you're really part of their world and really trying to understand how friends are talking to each other, or mean girls are talking to each other,
or just a few minutes, just 25 minutes per se. What do you like to do online? Do you search? Do you play a game? What do you do? What do you look for? Who are you online?
And Rick, what else are we doing to help parents on a bigger level?
There are a lot of things that we're doing as a private company. We're looking out for children to see some of the warning signs before the actual bullying starts, or immediately after it starts, to warn those parents. The other thing that I think is very important to mention is it's not just online on a computer. You have to consider your iPod, your iPad, your PlayStation, your Xbox. Every point of contact where you interact with complete strangers, that's where the bullying is happening, and that's where the exploitation is happening as well.
So if there's one thing, Caroline, that you'd want everyone to take away from this show, what would it be?
Let's see, one thing. Well, I guess I would say embrace your kids' digital world and learn from them, but also know that it's your responsibility to guide them.
Great. Kelly?
I would say definitely for parents to not shy away from technology, not shy away from embracing the technology. Virtual technology is definitely something that is not going away. We look for it as our #1 recruiting tool at the moment. So it's definitely a vital skill that people need to have in the economy. We definitely tell parents just to educate themselves, educate their kids to use it in a smart way. rather than not use it at all.
Great. Rick, one thing.
I would say know what your children are doing. You know, if you wouldn't, you know, grab your teenage daughters and throw them into a room at a bus stop, you know, in the middle of Illinois by themselves, then why would you let them be in a chat room or in a gaming situation, you know, with two strangers that possibly may be from Illinois or Michigan or wherever you want to, you know, whatever state you want to come up with. I'm not picking on Illinois. I'm just saying.
Yes.
That's the thing. Is when you're online, you don't know who the people are at the end of the line.
Right. So. Right. We're putting our kids in a room with pedophiles and mean girls. Mm-hmm. Great.
Absolutely.
Today's kids often have an online identity from the moment they're born because we parents are eager to share every cute little baby photo, every milestone. And once they become old enough to manage their own online selves, it's important to talk to them about what they're liking, following, and sharing online and the consequences. Here are some tips for parents based on everything we talked about today. Know what tools your kids are using and teach them to share responsibly, and be familiar with the sites they visit. We don't have to know everything about everything, but be familiar. Talk about it. Talk about what your child should do if they feel bullied or see someone else being bullied. Talk about the positive impact that they could make too. Have boundaries, such as no TV or internet in the bedroom, and give your devices their own bedtime. And follow the golden rule. Don't post, share, or forward something that you wouldn't want your grandmother to see. The digital age poses problems for parents that we've never faced before. And as your teen experiences the online world, they are creating a digital fingerprint. It's likely something that you can't control, but don't forget, parents matter. We can make a huge difference. We'll be featuring more parent tips and great resources online at WQED.edu and at #IQSmartParent. Let's keep this important conversation going. Visit us at www.wqed.org/smartparent to let us know your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us, and good night. Thank you. Really great.